This episode is brought to you by Hammerlock Apparel. Visit hammerlockapparel.com today. On today's episode, we talk about the subtle genius of Bret Hart, European uppercuts, and Tyson tells us about his first time in a WWE ring. It's the Hitman and the 1-2-3 Kid. Let's go! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm Scotty D. Once again, I'm here with our good friend. It's Tyson Dux. How you doing, buddy?
Yo, Scotty, what's happening?
Not much, man. Living the dream. I'm excited about this episode. What do you got in store for us today?
Listen, honest to God, man, like I can't tell you how excited I am about this. Me and you being two good old-fashioned Canadian boys, it only seems right. It only seems right that we really get off the ground running with one of the classics in modern day era. This wasn't that long ago, being 1994. It is the match between Bret Hart and the 1-2-3 Kid, also known as Six or Sean Waltman, however you want to call him. It's Bret Hart versus 1-2-3 Kid.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to follow along, you can find this match on YouTube. It's titled Bret Hart versus the 1-2-3 Kid, Monday Night Raw, 1994. I assume you can find it on the network as well. However you find it, load it up and follow along. And we're going to watch it shortly. A little bit of background on this match. First, why don't you tell us why you chose this match?
Well, since we've been off of wrestling for a while, I've gone back and I've just started watching wrestling for when wrestling was the greatest wrestling has ever been. And like, you can't be a true Canadian professional wrestler and not enjoy Bret Hart, or at least put him right up there as number one. Some will, but those people don't count because Bret is like definitely a national treasure to us up here in the North. Just like, if you're going to have any kind of talk about professional wrestling, you better mention your Ric Flairs, your Stone Colds, your Bret Harts, the guys that really made this business very, very good. And I'm just talking from a modern day perspective. We're not talking that long ago, but that's what my whole feeling is. If you're going to talk professional wrestling, you better talk about Mr. Professional Wrestling, and that is one Hitman Hart.
Yep, for sure. In this match, July 1994, is on Monday Night Raw. And if I'm going to go back a little bit in time and set the stage a little bit before we get started here. Most people remember 1-2-3 Kid breaking into the WWF in his matches with Razor Ramon. That huge upset he had on Monday Night Raw. Then they had the rematch for $10,000. And that was, I mean, is there a better way to break into the WWF than that angle?
That's a great angle. Such a great angle. I love that angle. And like Scott Hall is or Razor Ramon was quite like wanted to put the Kid over, and they really put the 1-2-3 Kid over when he started in that business, because we're talking about the land of giants. And I've said this many times. WWF at the time, WWE has always been the land of giants, like giant human beings. And for Sean Waltman, who's not a small guy, if you've ever met Sean, he is not tiny. He's a tall, thick dude, but compared to the rest of these monsters, he's quite a bit smaller. So his initial debut in WWE was something that's kind of groundbreaking. He's like the smaller guy that set the standard for other cruiserweights, and eventually for me to be in the Cruiserweight Classic. So I got 1-2-3 Kid to thank for that.
Right on. Absolutely. And he that angle with Razor Ramon was kind of one of the first real angles I remember from Monday Night Raw. When Raw first came out, it wasn't available where I lived anyway. It was hard to get. And I definitely remember this angle happening when it did. Now, Sean Waltman, 123 Kid, he was on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast a couple years ago, and he talks about this match as one of his all-time favorite matches, best matches. And just to kind of, again, to set the stage a little bit, after this angle, they brought him in, he was hot, and then he got in some trouble. He was doing some backstage antics, a lot of ribs and things like that. And he, in his own words, he said he got a little too big for his britches. And Vince put him in his place a bit. He had to lose to IRS at SummerSlam that year, I believe. And then he was doing a lot of jobs. And he kind of turned it around, got himself together, started being a little easier to work with behind the scenes. In 1994, he had a match with Owen Hart at King of the Ring. It was a short match, but it was a great match, which led to the match on Raw with Bret Hart about a month and a half later. And again, this is from Stone Cold Podcast. He said Bret almost went heel to help him get over in the match and boosted his credibility straight to the top. Bret told him to get all of his stuff in during the match. And he said after this match, guys from other organizations were coming up to him in the airport and telling him how great the match was. So it really skyrocketed his credibility with the boys.
Yeah, you know what? That's the thing that I love that you brought that up, did the homework on that, because it's not only like a lot of people don't realize that Bret Hart was the top guy. He had the belt. He was the top dude, and he was the top for a while, and it showed. And anywhere in Europe, anywhere in the UK, anywhere in Canada, in the States, he was drawing actual money with competitive style professional wrestling after the Hogan era. So he's the guy that's on top, that they needed a top guy that was different than Hogan, and they needed someone more serious. And Bret was not only the kind of guy that is a top guy and deserves all the accolades for being one of the hardest workers in pro wrestling and taking his craft very seriously, but also he gave back. There's like numerous matches you can talk about that Bret Hart made people. It's not just being a top guy, not just being the guy that he never phoned it in. He always had great matches, but it wasn't for himself. He did these matches as well, as much for himself as he did for the other talent. And isn't that what it's all about, really? You know, there's a lot of guys out there that are very, very selfish in this business. He's one of these guys that was not. He wanted, because if you have top guys and you're working top guys, your company's going to do very well because everybody looks like top tier talent. And he's done that with a 123 Kid. We've seen him do it with Diesel. We've seen him do it with Stone Cold Steve Austin. If there was ever an example of putting a guy over and propelling that guy to superstardom, it's Bret Hart with Stone Cold. So this is Bret Hart. This is selfless. The way he was selfless was through his work and making sure that everybody knew that who he was in that ring with at the time that could hang with them. They were going to be stars. And that's the beauty of what we do. And that's the beauty of behind Bret Hart, is not only that he's the excellence of execution, but he's also a very, very selfless superstar. Like a superstar that gave back.
And I think that's why so many people love Bret, whether you understood exactly what he was doing or not. There's no coincidence that so many guys say they had their best matches with Bret Hart. It's there's countless guys who have said that, including Sean Waltman in this match. So if you've got it lined up, we're going to start it shortly. If you don't, pause it and get it rolling now, and we'll get it going. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, and then we're going to hit play. So once again, it's titled Bret Hart versus the 123 Kid, Monday Night Raw, 1994. The total video is 21 minutes and 55 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
All right. So if you're checking in now, there might be a commercial at the start of it. Just skip by it. I'll give you a minute to get by it. I'm just going to talk about entrances. So they're just going to enter. Not a real big deal. Of course, 1-2-3 Kid makes his entrance. This is back, like, now watch this arena. That's the first thing I want people to notice is WWE Raw, when it first started, Raw is War. They didn't have the grand stadiums that you see nowadays. As you can see, they're trying different approaches with ring card girls, showing the people who these people are. But look at the stands. That's not a huge arena. That's almost like in Toronto, there's a Ted Reeves arena that ROH works out of or has done shows out of. And it's basically a very small arena size building. It's not Madison Square Garden.
And just to add to that, I heard this listening to the podcast with Steve Austin again. This was actually at a small resort in the Pocono Mountains. So it was like a resort you'd go to in Cuba or something like that had an event center in it. So you're right. It wasn't a major stadium or anything like that. It was a resort in the Pocono Mountains of Kentucky, I believe.
Wow. See, and there you go. See, you could tell right away if you're not, because a lot of people get enthralled with the action. They don't see the actual setup, because the setup is great and it hides the fact that it's not huge, but it's not huge. It's not a huge place. So Superstars back in the day, and this is national TV, this is all this stuff, they're still working very, very hard for lower numbers. I know my first ever experience with WWE, I wrestled my very first match with them in front of 16,100 and some odd thousand people in Air Canada Centre, which is massive. It was a massive amount of people in a massive stage. So it's kind of neat to see a little bit more of a personal feel. Almost not independent, but a little bit more of an independent vibe, like a smaller building. Now, aside from all that, now we're getting on to the nitty gritty, as I like to call it. We talked about this before. We talked about Jim Neidhart and Owen Hart coming to the ring, and like, what is the sense? We're going to go through this match, you'll be wondering why did they pull these guys out just to confront Bret, but not really do anything and not be in the match at all. Basically, it's educating people that are at the arena. It's educating the fans at home that there is storylines going on. There is confrontation. There's heated rivalry between his own brother and his own brother-in-law and Bret. And it's a great way to start it. And psychologically, this is storytelling at its best, and you won't even notice it. But when you watch this match through, Bret Hart is top guy, like we talked about, top tier talent. And 1-2-3 Kid's a little bit smaller, and he's very young. You wouldn't think he could hang with Bret Hart, like a lot of people actually believe in professional wrestling even to this day, back in the 90s. So when Bret Hart finally locks up with 1-2-3 Kid, the first thing he's going to do is give him a really good arm drag, and then you'll see Bret's expression. And I'll just wait for that to hit before we go any further, but you watch it. Great lockup, by the way. Bret's known for awesome lockups. Arm drag. Now watch his expression on his face. Bret's expression is one of like, oh shoot, okay, can't take this kid lightly. Because usually the first move, the top guy is always doing the first thing because it makes him look strong. But distraction from his brother and his brother-in-law, it's just story, man. I know it's so subtle, but that's what makes professional wrestling, the subtleties of it, where you can go back and watch it 100 times and pick up new things. That's what makes wrestling great, is storytelling. It's a story. And I know it's action-based and it's competitive, but it's all about telling that story.
That was so subtle, but so key.
Well, you know what, too, Scott? And we're going to talk about this a lot with Bret, because we'll probably do more Bret matches, because I love Bret Hart. But his thing in life is tiny little subtleties that you will never really pick up. And why would he do it? It's for everybody that's watching this over and over again. He's just brilliant. He's a wrestling genius. So we just had that arm drag. We had arm wringer, and nobody sells an arm wringer like Bret Hart, gives it like he takes an armbar and he sells it like $1 million. Right away, we see he's stronger, he's bigger. Where 1, 2, 3 Kid grabs that armbar and he just slams him. He's like slams him, gets him off his arm. It's like, you're annoying, get off me. It's so good. Like, we're just showing how much bigger. I love this, and I think we should see this more in professional wrestling, or the hammerlock, and he rolls over. So he holds onto the hammerlock. And I've talked about this in my tutorial videos. Just because a guy, you're chain wrestling, doesn't mean you have to give a hold and then take a hold, give a hold and take a hold. You can hold on to something and make a person actually work for the release or for the reversal. There we go. Like, Bret's always like just one step ahead, man. Giving that elbow drop or that back elbow, putting the kid down, putting him in a chin lock. It's funny watching this now, and I'll catch these points. This is the greatest professional wrestler in the world at the time, and he does a chin lock with his back to hard cam, which is such a no-no now, right?
Yeah.
But this is the greatest of all time, giving his back to him. I don't know, Scott, did you catch the subtlety on that leapfrog through into the monkey flip? Did you notice that? Before he gets into these sweet kicks and Bret takes the fall to the outside. Yeah. Did you notice anything there?
No.
Okay, see that, and this is why you got me here. The
right.
subtlety of that whole spot with the drop down, the leapfrog, and then watch him hit the rope. So, guys, if you go back, we're not going to go do it right now, but if you reverse and you watch this again, you watch after the leapfrog, Bret makes himself look unbalanced when he hits the ropes and takes that monkey flip. So it catches him off guard. So he doesn't hit the ropes as naturally as he usually does. I know that is such sick amount of subtlety right there, but just watch it again. Watch how uncomfortable he looks. This is Bret Hart, man. He's been at this a long, long time. He doesn't just run the ropes terribly, ever. And in this instance, he looks off balance. He hits the ropes really awkwardly and then takes that monkey flip. It's just very, very good professional wrestling. Probably you'll never see. I'd venture to say you won't see very much of it anymore because these ways are like slowly dying. And I wish we could bring it back. I wish more people would take more time in those little minute details. Of course, the old 1, 2, 3 Kid has the arm now. He's working that arm over. He's got a grip on it. And then again, we're talking Bret's not trying to out-wrestle him. Bret is basically kind of bullying him. And that's what you're referring to, Scott, where he kind of almost comes across as heelish, where he is not really doing the babyface chain wrestling stuff. He's more beating the kid up. And that's also a way of seeing the kid fire up, sell more, and people get behind him. It's all about making that kid look like $1 million. And even though he's selling and taking an ass kicking, it's about making him come back, kick out, fight back. And that eventually will make this kid look like $1 million. This was such a good match.
Watch these. Oh, these are awesome right here. Oh,
like just unreal. Those look so brutal.
And that's another, we're talking about what they're calling European uppercuts. And Sean, 1, 2, 3 Kid, Sean Waltman talked about this in the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast or his own, one of the two. I can't remember exactly, but he said that nobody delivered those like Bret, other than guys who were from the UK. He said Bret was the best North American wrestler delivering those, and they were not hard to sell because he definitely laid them in.
Well, and you can tell that he lays that stuff in all the time. And another great point to that, everything that Bret does, he does it with a certain pace. It's not a slow pace, but it's not a rushed pace. It is methodical. And everything he does, he makes sure that it is actually executed. And I know that's his whole gimmick is excellence of execution, but it's truly, truly very much word for word the truth, because that leg drop before those Europeans are so tight and so solid that that's just how he works. Like everything is so precise and is meant to be super solid.
What kind of off topic? What do you think about Macho Man on the announce team here?
You know what? I don't mind the Macho Man on commentary because he's the color guy, right?
Yep.
And it's great to listen to somebody that's completely different than very casual kind of like play-by-play announcers. You need that element, and I love that he's so in character all the time. But that's what they say about Macho. He's very much like when he was alive, he was very much Macho Man 24/7. Even off the start, where they was talking about when Owen Hart uses a childish line like he's a scaredy cat, and then Macho Man brings it up. It's funny. It's funny to listen to that. It's very G-rated kind of commentary, and but it would still work to today. It's just without being harsh, it is actual entertainment. Like that's where entertainment should be, is in little subtleties like that. Like, oh, he's a scaredy cat. Like, who calls anybody a scaredy cat as a grown-ass man? You know what I mean? But it works. It works for them.
Yeah.
That's another thing that everybody talks about, the European uppercuts of Bret Hart. Can we, for a minute, just talk about the headbutts of Bret Hart being some of the best?
The best. Oh, man. Like a Bret Hart headbutt is just incredible to watch.
Incredible. It looks realistic as hell. And there we go again. We just got to the spot where 1, 2, 3 Kid vaulted over and then went into a pin, like a sunset flip type position. And then Bret grabbed the ropes and then got the pin on him, countered his pin with his own pin, but used a very much a heelish tactic of grabbing the ropes. And all it was is these subtleties. He knew that he was going to be over anyways, and people were going to love him. But he was going to make sure that this kid got over by all means necessary, which is great. Like this is fine work, people. If you're watching this match and you haven't seen it in a while, you're going to watch it again. I guarantee it, because it's great.
And here's the sportsmanship we talked about before.
Yeah, you know what? I always wondered why, and I still to this day wonder why they did this whole angle in this match. Why it was just on a crucifix counter where he just slams him down like a sidewalk slam, and then he goes for the pin, and then of course his feet were up in the ropes. It almost seemed like he did miss the 1, 2, 3. Back in the day, they would never. It was legitimate. Like if you weren't kicking out, they were going to count it. It's not like today where if they hover on that second 1, 2, and then they hover and it's a weird 3 motion. No, they were going to count you out. But obviously, if you look at the timing of it, how they go to break, how do they come back from break, it's got to be. And that's one of those things that I love about it. That's mastery of art right there, because even a guy that's been at the business as long as I have for 24 years, I'm still baffled by it. Like, was that real, or did they screw up, or did the ref screw up? And only they know. I don't think anybody's ever asked them. Someone ask Sean quickly, please, for the love of God.
Yeah,
Bret, because Bret will never tell you. Bret will live and die by his work, so we'll never get it out of him. But Sean will probably spill the beans.
Yeah, and I didn't hear him mention anything on the podcast that he talked about the match, but I mean, it kind of does fit in with the character Bret's trying to play, being, he's being a little more aggressive maybe than normal here, but he's a true sportsman. He wants to win fair and square, and this kid he knows deep down that the kid wasn't pinned for 3, so I've never really seen that spot where a guy asks the referee to keep the match going. Right. For the inevitable finish being that Bret was going to go over again anyways. Do you know what I mean? It's very odd. It's very odd. I love it though. I don't know, it just has a more of a realistic approach to it. Beautiful backslide, by the way. Beautiful backslide. Block that hip toss into the backslide. Looks real good. Goes back to the cell. And of course, those elbows to the head are vicious. We're going to talk a lot about stuff that I want to do when wrestling comes back, and that's one of those things. I told my son that today. I'm like, I'm going to do those Bret Hart forearms until my knees explode. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. I wonder if Stone Cold Steve Austin once he got into more of a brawling style, used to do those a lot. I wonder if he picked that up from Bret.
I think so. Like there's of course Bret and Austin both took this from Paul Orndorff, because Paul Orndorff was the king of those forearm shivers when the guy was down. And I don't know if it goes any further down the line, but I know as old as Paul Orndorff. So Paul Orndorff way back in the day was using those style forearms. So maybe he's the originator. Somebody look that up. Let me know where those forearms come from. There's some historians out there that would know, but I get as far as back as Paul, Mr. Wonderful Orndorff.
Right on. Well, wherever they came from, they look vicious.
They are the best if they're done right. But if they're not done right, and that's one of those things again, if these ones, like European uppercuts, are hard to do, hard to perform. Same with those forearms. They're going to look real bad if they're not done properly. Second rope, of course, Bret used to come off the rope with that forearm in the face again. However, he is met with a boot, which is great that he's actually letting 1, 2, 3 Kid counter his signature stuff. People pick up that subtlety right there, because Bret never let anybody reverse or counter his stuff. Look at that again. I'm gonna hammer this home. These are the things that you got to watch. Do you see how uncomfortable Bret is when he goes off and he hits those ropes because he ducks underneath something? It's just work. It's work of art, and that's where the art form comes from, not the nonsense of giving the excuse of bad work. That's actual work right there. Now, Scott, we've talked about this too, because we've talked about Sean Waltman's podcast. That back kick, that's a savate kick, is a potato. It's very much a stiff ass kick in the face, led by that drop kick in the chest, which was wonderful, and then into that crossbody. But Waltman will talk about it. He will talk about the fact that he actually kicked the face off Bret Hart, and that's the one instance where he got him real good.
Yeah, and I think he said Bret was not shy to let you know after the match that you potatoed him.
Because he's a class act. Bret's a pretty solid dude. He never hurt anybody, and that's his claim to fame as well, has always been solid, but never truly hurting anybody in that professional ring. So that's always been his claim to fame. But look at the offense that the 1, 2, 3 Kid is getting. In that day and age, for the Kid to get a power bomb on the heavyweight champion, the heavyweight champ of WWE, how crazy is that?
Yeah, I mean, that power bomb, that was unbelievable that he let him do that.
And it looks legit because he doesn't get him all the way up. It's the way a power bomb should look if it was reality based.
Yep. And
now you've talked about this before, him diving out of that ring, right? Where he says that Bret didn't really catch him.
Yeah, he says on one of the podcasts that Bret kind of missed him, it winded him for a couple seconds, but he's up pretty quickly and jumping off the top rope again.
Well, I just noticed that too, because that's the first I heard of it, that he missed him, or that he was knocked, had the wind knocked out of him. But if you look back, if you watch that again. Guys, if you're hitting the top, like off the top rope, and your dude is right there, he's standing right there in front of you, and he's putting on classic good stuff. Can we please just aim for the person that you're trying to attack? Aim for that person so that he doesn't have to run out of his way to protect you. Let's hit our moves. Let's make sure that we make contact. Don't dive over the top of them, because Bret is not going to make his stuff look bad. You know, he's selfless. He's not selfish, but he's also not going to make him look like like garbage. So I don't like that's an iffy one, because he still caught a lot of Bret on the shoulder, just a little off, right? This is just a little wee bit off. Look at all this stuff is great, and that we don't see this anymore. People that just go for moves, they just go and they hit moves. But this one is great because you actually get to see that cross body, which is, you never see that nowadays.
And Bret's let him get enough stuff in now. The fans are actually starting to believe that 1, 2, 3 Kid might win this match.
It's getting to that point now where, and look how he's selling. Look how Bret's selling with a little bit of a hobble. he's winded. He's never been winded. They say that Stone Cold mentions that numerous times, is that Bret Hart, you couldn't blow him up. There was no way you're going to blow him up. He was that good. His conditioning was so well, but he always had his mouth like halfway through a match, like his mouth was open, breathing out his mouth, which shows that he's exhausted, like he was in a true fight. I love that. And I love that sell. I love that not over the top sell, that off the top rope. He takes him off there, slams him, throws him in the ring. And do you see Bret doesn't like hobble or bounce or flip or stand up or shake a hand or twitch his feet. He just lays there heavy, like it almost got him. 1, 2, 3, Kid goes for that missile drop kick, and then right away. That's it. That's the match. There's no immense amount of false finishes. There's no 2.5 kickouts. There's no crazy amount of moves. There's good moves. It's good work. But at the end of the day, he comes off the top rope. He counters by catching his feet and puts him in a sharpshooter. There's no need to pile a Russian leg sweep on top of a power bomb, on top of a DVD, and then put the sharpshooter on the guy. And that's another thing that I love about like watching these old tapes back, is that stuff's all missing nowadays. We're missing a lot of this. Where's the surprise? Where like false finishes used to be used as a surprise tactic, like, oh my God, he kicked out of that. But it's so overdone and it's so redundant that nobody can get into it anymore. And that right there is a picture perfect finish. That's a great finish. Yep. It's just, he comes off the top. He had Bret completely hurt with that slam off the top rope, and then he goes to the top and think he's going to finish him, and then boom, out of nowhere, sharpshooter, 1, 2, 3, or like, I give up. Because back then they weren't even doing the tap out thing; they were still doing the voice call.
And I like how as soon as he got the sharpshooter locked in, the match was over. It was it kind of puts the sharpshooter over. It's so deadly.
And they did it earlier as well, which I loved about it because, well, again, we're going to talk about the little things where Bret grabs, ties him into the sharpshooter, and then as soon as he starts to turn, 1, 2, 3, Kid grabs those ropes immediately. Like doesn't oversell it. He's not like trying to get out of it. He grabs the ropes out of desperation, and it looks like fear, like actual fear of like, this is over. And he grabs the ropes and makes them break. So when he actually catches them in the center of the ring with his second attempt at the sharpshooter, that's it. Game over. And that's just putting that move over more, making it look even stronger than it should be. Like a lot of guys won't put their finishers over. People kick out of finishers all the time now. It's ridiculous. But back then, there it is. It's like he teased it by showing how scared 1, 2, 3 Kid could be of getting into a situation where he's in that move, where he breaks right away, and then he finally taps him out within 3 seconds of being put in it. It's well done. It's a well-constructed story, and it just doesn't – it holds up. It will hold up. I've watched that match now this week. I think I've watched it 10 times because my little guy loves that match, so we watch it over and over again. And it's one for the books of like being I know we do the I hate star ratings. I hate that stuff, but it is definitely top notch.
Absolutely. I mean, especially for the time on Raw, there wasn't that many highly competitive matches. At that point, there was still a lot of enhancement matches. And I mean, later on in the Attitude Era, you'd get some pay-per-view quality matches all the time. But I mean, back then, this was a rare thing, I believe.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially when you would think that would be a walk in the park. That'd be a 6-minute match. That'd be it. Because also, I think you informed me of this, like doing your all your homework. That match was way longer than 20 minutes. That was like a 30-minute match. They just had to edit it for TV, which is astounding. Astounding that match was. He gave him that much time, but that just again selfless.
Yep. Great match all around for sure. So again, anybody who's been watching along with us, if you have any comments or feedback, definitely leave them in the space down below. And once again, questions of Showtime. What do you got for us, Tyson?
You know what? I want to know what was your aha moment? So like we're talking about Bret Hart here, because Bret Hart with me is very much an aha moment where it's like, oh my, look at that. Like where you can blow a person's mind with such subtle work. Who is your person? And I'm not talking moves. I'm not looking for moves, but who or what match was your aha moment where you're like, wow, what sticks out in your mind as being one of those matches where you've seen either a spot or something happen where it's like, my God, it just changed your whole thought process when it comes to professional wrestling? That's what I want to know.
I've got a question for you, going back to something else you mentioned earlier in the episode. You talked about your first, I believe it was your first match with the WWE at the Air Canada Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that like, even just maybe leading up to it that day, walking into that building, growing up in Canada, Air Canada Center in Toronto, as most people know, legendary. Well, you had Maple Leaf Gardens, and then the Air Canada Center took over after that, closed down. What was it like as a Canadian kid walking into the Air Canada Center, knowing you're going to perform in front of 16,000 plus fans?
See, I didn't know the attendance that night. I didn't know until the show actually started, where they told the numbers. I was also not promised anything. I wasn't even sure I was going to get a match. All it was me during the day doing a workout with the rest of the guys, and they had a bunch of extras in there to try out. And in that whole group, there was Gail Kim was there, Tracy Brooks, who is now retired. Like, there's some people that have had some very excellent success in professional wrestling. And I was one of the male talents that was on that day, just looking to be noticed, be seen. That was my big opportunity. And after the training and watching me perform in front of them, and like the agents of Arn Anderson and Fit Finlay, they decided that they were going to pick me. So they picked me for their dark match. So the dark match is basically warm up the crowd, also get the camera crew a chance to warm up and get their everything ready and like in sync and colors and lighting and all that stuff. There's more to a dark match than just putting two guys out there and making them do a dark match. So this was during the transition as well of WCW as being bought by the WWE. So my first opponent ever in WWE was WCW's own Sick Boy. So I got to work with Sick Boy for about 5 minutes. I also came backstage, and they were so impressed with my stuff. And one of the guys decided to get out of there because he didn't want to be there anymore because he wasn't picked. So they gave me his spot to be in the ring with The Undertaker when The Undertaker was beating up on Brock Lesnar. There's this gingered-haired little kid rolling into the ring as security. Everybody else bails except this poor schlub, and The Undertaker knocks this kid out with his cast. And that little schlub was yours truly. It was probably one of the best nights of my life, as not only did I get to work in the place where I always had the goals of going to go to. Like, I wanted to be a part of WWE when I was a little guy. I wanted to be a WWF star, but it also, I got to work with a WCW guy, and then I got to work with the man himself, The Undertaker, as he knocked me for a loop. One of the craziest moments of my life. It's still, I wish you could go back and feel the electricity as I talk about the electricity. I wish I could feel it all again, because that was like when it's so new and you're so unspoiled by those kind of experiences. It was something that is almost out of body.
Very cool. That's awesome. Anything else about this match before we sign off for the day?
Yeah, you know what? I just, the only thing I'd have to say is, like, get a chance to watch it. please watch it. And what I tell a lot of my students as well, I always tell them, watch it first, watch the match first. If you're a studier of professional wrestling, if you're just in watching this or listening to this and you just want to get along, get a little bit of feedback, that's fine. But if you're a studier of professional wrestling and you want to take your career to the next step, I would encourage you to just watch that match and just enjoy it first. Don't try to analyze it. Don't try to break it down. Don't try to do homework on it. Just watch it and enjoy. And then once you've watched that match, because it's one of those matches that you will enjoy, go back then and then break it down and then see the subtleties and all the stuff that goes along with it and the true mastery of what professional wrestling and storytelling in professional wrestling is all about. So go back and watch it a second time and then break it down. But that first time, just don't put any homework on it. Just watch it and just enjoy great professional wrestling.
And there you have it. If you weren't watching along, do yourselves a huge favor. Go find this match, July 1994, Monday Night Raw. 1-2-3 Kid against Bret the Hitman Hart. You will not regret it. And that does it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you're listening on YouTube, do us a huge favor. Hit us up with some questions, comments, any feedback, suggestions down below. And if you're on a podcast network, send them to Tyson on Twitter, @Tyson Dux. Once again, thank you so much. For Tyson Dux, I'm Scotty D, and we will catch you later.